Welcome back to Arkansas First Reports, where we cut through the noise, ask the tough questions, and give you a front row seat to the real stories shaping our state. Today's episode is for anyone who's thought, what can I do to make a difference? Whether you're frustrated with the system or fired up to get involved, this episode is going to be challenging and encouraging to you. We're pulling back the curtain on what looks like to actually show you what happens at the Capitol, sit face-to-face with legislators, and to speak truth to power. Joining me today are two guests who this year took a leap from concerned citizens to active grassroots warriors. They're not politicians. They're not lobbyists. They're everyday Arkansans who decided to get engaged, and their perspectives on what they've witnessed are powerful. Beginning with me this morning is Mike Rasmussen. He is a great friend of mine, and it's such an honor to have him to sit down with me today. He is a true innovator, a passionate patriot, and someone whose work is revolutionizing the way we as grassroots advocates engage with the legislative process and to protect the integrity of our elections. Mike is a certified public accountant right here in Arkansas, but trust me, his impact goes far beyond the numbers. Mike is a trailblazer who has focused his expertise in data and technology with his passion for freedom. He's developed a cutting-edge software platform that uses artificial intelligence to identify, summarize, and track legislative bills, making it easier for everyday citizens just like you and I to hold elected officials accountable. This year, Mike has taken a bold stand. He's gotten involved with House Bill 1569. That's a grassroots-supported bill aimed at preserving transparency and integrity in our elections and keeping our roads safe. But the process hasn't been easy. He's witnessed firsthand an uphill battle with the grassroots citizens face and how challenging it is when you face the corporate power-backed interest at the Capitol. Here to tell us all what he's learned, what has surprised him, and why he believes it is time for all hands on deck. Mike, thank you for joining me today.
Thanks, Kandi. I had to avoid a bunch of trucks coming down here hitting me on the road, so how appropriate.
Right. I mean, when you start learning, as our friend Shannon really started exposing some of the issues facing us on the roadways that we just were not thinking about, right? You think I'm safe on our roadways. I teach my kids to watch. It's not about how safe you drive. It's about how others drive.
Right.
And to be careful because, we sometimes have some crazy people on our roadways.
Right.
But we don't necessarily think about our truckers.
Yep.
I think sometimes people are scared to ride beside a big truck, but it's the intimidation of the truck being big. What they're not realizing is who's behind the wheel.
Yep.
And that is something that has been exposed and that we've learned about, which brought about this House bill. So tell me some of the things that you've learned and how you got engaged in this.
So I'll go from Monday to Thursday last week. And I'll walk you through the process, and I can do it in 20 minutes because my day job is fighting the IRS. I don't have time for this.
Yeah.
So, that's what I do. I'm a hired gun. I basically read tax law.
Right.
So I compare tax law legislation, and now I'm just comparing legislation
right.
on what's in these bills. But anyway, in context, 5 years ago, I follow FedEx trucks around the country because basically I was taught. My nephew avoided a huge accident in Colorado, went down an icy but they're all trained. They don't have these rules are not what the big companies have. specifically FedEx and UPS.
Right.
And I'm not promoting them, but basically they know they don't have non-domicile CDLs on their fleet. We're the safest thing. They have rev limiters at 65, 55. So my point is,
And learning about these non-domicile.
well, I knew about it before Shannon was talking.
Oh, really?
So
because it blew my mind as I learned about
5 years ago, he avoided an accident because he was trained, he could read signs and blah. This is my nephew.
Right.
Rolled it into the creek and run upside down. So for 5 years, he's been going through therapy and everything. But had he not known what to do,
Right.
and there's no way. So they're even trained to look out for people that can't drive.
Right.
So their biggest challenge is not all the big carriers. It's the other truckers that are on the road. So when I come down here, I'm like, I follow those machines. But anyway, that's my context. Have a nephew. So I watched Shannon go through and I was like, okay, I saw 1569, which was a closer to what the rules they have. And then it just got tabled. And I'm like going, so the background is you have to go to ArcLeg and pull all the bills.
Right.
Okay, so you got to go pull everything. So I spent last week. So I got there I heard about Shannon's bill, the SB 1757. You can go look up.
Right.
So I go down on Monday and I'm there and I want to actually see how it works. I wanted to hear his testimony and the other side, the Arkansas Trucking Association. It was on the list. It was last. Well, why is it last? Is it just not important? Why was it last on the list I heard? And why did it go from the transportation committee room to a judiciary meeting room? So at 11:45, I'm sitting there and it's like Shannon goes, no, you can just go home, Mike. And I'm like, I'm busy. I wanted to watch your testimony and the ATA.
Right.
Oh, no. No, this legislator pulls it down at 1:00 and basically says, no, we're going to ram this through. Wanted to vote. So basically, Shannon and then they suspend the rules or something, which I don't understand how the whole thing works.
Right.
But he got 2 minutes. And so what you had to do is you actually had to watch him. I had to watch him on a video later on, and I didn't even get to participate. So that's what happens, is unless you're physically there, you can't participate on how this whole process works.
Yes.
That's the problem.
Right.
So then I went home, and then I started asking around to people, and it's just like, that's how it works. So then I would go to the site, go to ArcLeg and pull the bills to find out the calendars and try and walk it through the process. That's what I was trying to do. So the other bill I was trying to do was SB 433, which was putting 10 commandments in the school. Something simple, right?
Right.
So I go Wednesday to sit in a committee room and I watch how it goes. And Tim Barton with Wall Builders were there. I mean, if anybody knows who he is, it was just, well, we knew each other. So he's showing all these legislators 10 commandments from documents 250 years ago, just incredible testimony. And not all of them voted for it. And I'm sitting there just like, how much more convincing do you have to be? Anyway, Tim walks outside. I showed him what I'm doing. And we knew somebody in common. And Tim goes, well, Mike, you need to come talk to us. He goes, you take bills, you read tax legislation, you take bills and you read them. I said, yeah, we read them. We basically compare one bill to another. So take it to this bill. I basically took the original trucking bill to the one that was set aside. Why, I don't know.
Right.
Compared that one to the one in Texas and to the one that is 1757 that was unanimously said, you can just put these non-domicile drivers in, and watched it happen. So then I went on Thursday and I actually saw the testimony Monday. So I went back 3 times. Back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. So finally on Thursdays, the legislator in the Senate brought it to the Senate. And the only way to find it is go to the site and see the calendars and the videos and all that. And this is tax season.
Right.
All the time.
You're right.
I mean, but I want to participate and understand. So I'm recording. I'm up in the gallery. No one's there. There's one lady behind me. So I'm there recording the senator actually reading the bill and say, this bill was brought by the ATA. And I went, I didn't think, why is a big company bringing bills and why did it run through so fast? And why do you give any proponents 2 minutes on a Monday and all of a sudden you're voting? So I'm recording. Who's behind me is the lobbyist from the American Trusting Association, who I didn't know. And she's watching me and I'm just being a citizen. So I'm ending on this before they'll let you ask questions.
Yeah.
So I'm there. I then run over to the house because I wanted to watch SB 433. Oh, it got delayed. I wanted to see the 10 Commandments. Lightning hits. They take session.
Right.
And I text one of the legislators and said, meet me when they exit out of the house at 5:00. So great. So I walk over there and I'm saying there, every Capitol Police was looking at me like, who? I'm just dressed like this, like I work.
Right.
And I'm just trying to understand the system. So we go over there. I'm walking down the marble stairway, looking at every legislator, right? And I'm just getting watched. I go down the stairs. The representative comes out and joins me and goes, hey, Mike, how you doing? And we go down and we go in a room. And I sit there and I go, why am I not welcome here? I said, if I'm just telling you, it was like I shouldn't be here trying to follow this. And he wouldn't believe me. He gets a call on his phone from the police. Who is that guy?
Oh, wow.
And I sat there and went, are you kidding? So he goes, no. He's just trying to understand the system. I mean, it's hard to communicate. It's hard to understand the process.
Yeah.
Right. That's my story last week.
Okay. So, I mean, you have you have taken this time because of your nephew and what you've heard with Shannon to get involved with this specific bill. That's kind of what got you going. And here at Arkansas First Reports and Arkansas First News, we are constantly trying to get people involved and tell them how important it is to actually go to the Capitol and witness these things. And you don't always have to give testimony, but just to witness and start understanding the process and how comfortable you can become in talking to your legislators, your senators, and so you took that this year because of this bill, right? And probably some shocking things, it sounds like, has happened. And you're recording, and now you're feeling like you're being watched.
I want to go down this afternoon.
Right.
I feel like I'm on a list.
Yeah.
I do. And so I'm going to go down and continue to participate. And it's the process.
Yeah.
We're electing officials. It's the process. And so when you're electing somebody, people need to understand, they need to go, instead of being in you know how you go into a jury duty?
Right.
People should have to go to the gallery and watch this. I didn't do it 4 years ago, but I started doing it.
Right.
And I just saw how difficult it was to read tax legislation. And then I went, well, how do all the senators and reps read legislation and see if there's anything in there? I'm up in the gallery watching representatives. The other one has to leave and they're voting for that person. They're hitting their little button, yay or nay.
Right.
I go, you're kidding. This really goes on here.
Yes.
So I'm saying, and I'm the only one up there. There was a Boy Scout troop and me and then the lobbyist.
Right.
How do we have time to get involved? It's just very difficult.
Right.
So we're going to create tools, and we have, that can watch, that can, there's called citizenportal.ai. They do the video of every public and they document it right away versus ArcLab, which basically only does it the next day. I couldn't get it quick enough. And then my tool, which basically reads the bill. So between the video and this, any new legislator that wanted to be transparent could basically watch this happen. We could sit on our couch and watch this happen.
Right.
Participate.
How do you, with watching Shannon's bill and how that process has taken place, what is your thoughts on that? Like, his bill is so important in keeping our roads safe, keeping citizens safe, and you're taking that and you're going against the big trucking industry. And so tell me your thoughts about that.
The only way, it's the process. You're just going to have to explain the process to people. This content is just passionate to me, but it's until you get affected.
Right.
When you get affected by a bill, that's when you're getting involved. Don't wait. Don't wait. This is the process. When you elect somebody, this is what they're doing down there. What I didn't tell you when I was down when it was at 5:30 yesterday or Thursday afternoon last week, 3 legislators came in. One of them, we finally said, okay, I know you, Mike. And I'm being quick because you have to be. And
Yeah.
I'm sounding like I need to be quick. Yes, I need to get back to work, but you almost to do all this. So I watched all 3 of them for 15 minutes, look at each other and go, this person's not doing this bill. This person not doing that. You need to vote here. And you're fist bumping and they're going back and forth. And then finally, all 3 looked at me and went, you shouldn't be hearing this.
Mm.
And I left. And I just went, wow, so this is how it works.
Yeah.
So my answer is people just need to get involved, do jury duty in the gallery, find a topic, get passionate about it, and understand the process and prove what I'm explaining. Does that really go on?
Right.
Before you go vote for somebody next November.
Right. And I think it's important to hold our elected officials accountable and to really understand what's going on is the process of being there and watching it happen and questioning, right? Questions.
Yep.
And talking about what you witnessed there. And it does get people fired up, but I think some people are intimidated to start that process because it's a foreign process to them to go to the Capitol. They feel like less than, right? Like they don't understand the process. But for you, this is your first time doing this. And so it's been a little bit intimidating, but you have seen the importance of getting involved.
Absolutely. And then when I talk to people, what's funny, it's not funny. People go, oh, that's just what goes on. Then that's not, then stop it.
Right.
Because when some topic, when there is a bill or something that becomes personal to you, you're going to go, well, how am I going to get involved? Just don't wait.
Right.
Challenge what we're showing you or talk to us side and go, wow, is this really the way it works? Go down.
Right.
Go down and watch.
So what is your takeaway just within the last couple weeks of holding our representatives accountable?
My last 4 days is to just share the story of what happened. I have everything. I have a whole list of exactly what happened. And this is what just happened to me. And every single person that I have talked to that does participate go, yep, that's it. Mm-hmm. So it's probably somehow exposing the process. This is what really goes on. I travel all across the country. I was in New Orleans yesterday. Right. I have a client down there, and I'm watching every truck. I'm at rest areas going, no hablo inglés, and I'm trying to just say, no, it's terrible. So I stay in this, and because it's impacted me. I drive all around the country, but I also hear people all around. This is not unique to Arkansas. The process is unique to every place.
Right.
People get favors and they have to do this behind the scenes that you just don't ever get to witness until you get involved. And that's what you need to go experience.
That's right.
Yeah,
experience that by getting involved.
Yeah.
And, we're at the end of the legislative session. This next week, by the time this airs, this next week is as far as we know, unless they call a special session, is the last week of the General Assembly. And I hope that if you take anything away is to understand the importance of letting your voice be heard and getting involved in the process of the things that are important to you and your family.
Yes,
right?
That's exactly right. Just if there's something gnawing at you, don't wait for an event.
Mm-hmm.
Go read all the bills and find out what might be important. There's 2,000 bills that were tried to rush through.
Right.
I even asked these 3 legislators that were with me, I go, how did you vote on HB 1745? What was that? Yeah. I'm like, are you kidding? They're sitting on the phones going to see how they voted. I went, well, do you know that there's people in the trucks? You drove down here.
Yes.
Do you, I didn't know. I said, well, you were too rushed to go through this. And that's what happens.
Yeah, it's interesting when you talk to your legislators about bills that they're voting on, but not necessarily bills that they are the ones presenting.
Yes.
the lack of knowledge on those bills when they're going in to vote on them. And I don't know if you saw this, but I've sat in many of those meetings and watched people on their phone playing games.
I can show you.
Yeah.
Yeah. It does. But voting for another legislator,
that's
that hurt me. When I saw the other person voting for another person out of the room, I just went, how can you do that? So I encourage all of you. We're all busy. We're all busy, but there is a topic that is going to come to your kitchen table.
Yes.
God forbid someone gets hit by another truck.
Yes.
That's it. And so some of us will be out there. That's just one that I've picked, that I see trucks all the time and driving all around the country. So it's very passionate to me.
Right.
Right. And so I'm doing what I can. I'm here. I don't want to be here. I got to go fight the IRS in 10 minutes, but I wanted to come down, at least just say, get involved. Right. Nobody has any time. Not participating is an excuse. And I had that 4 years ago. So
right.
There you go.
Well, I'm so glad that you got involved this year. I think that it has really lit passion up under you. I have a feeling there's going to be many more bills that you're going to be following and getting involved in the future. And I just thank you for sharing your experience of just the last couple weeks of what you have gone through and what you have witnessed with this process.
Well, thanks. And God bless you doing this, and just keep doing this and keep your podcast going, because the message will hit. Someone's driving, listen to this, and you never know you never know who's going to hear it. So please keep doing these. So
thank you, Mike, for joining us today.
All right.
Our second guest today is a man who knows how to get his hands dirty, both in the garage and in the fight for freedom. Aaron Hansen is a 22-year veteran in the autobody industry, but his true calling emerged when he stepped into the world of advocacy. Back in 2015, Aaron joined the board of a national hunting organization fighting to protect the rights of outdoorsmen and women across the country. But when that organization started to drift left, Aaron had the courage to walk away, and in 2018, choosing principle over position. That moment lit a fire. As the 2020 election cycle ramped up, Aaron started organizing meet and greet events in the Republican candidates in his home state of Washington. What started small quickly grew, and one gubernatorial candidate saw his potential and brought Aaron on board as a campaign manager. In the thick of it all came COVID-19. The lockdowns that only disrupted the political landscape, but it changed Aaron's life. Refusing to live under the tyrannical mandates, Aaron packed up and made the move to Arkansas. He didn't come here to hide. He came here to continue the fight, and his mission is clear: to make sure the place he now calls home never becomes the place he leaves. This year, he took his boots on the ground to the Capitol, getting directly involved in the legislative process and discovering that not everything in a so-called red state is what it seems. He's here to share what he's learned and what we need to wake up to, and why the time to engage is right now. Aaron, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it a lot.
Yeah, so tell us about your process of coming to Arkansas and your involvement in politics in Washington. And
so, briefly, like you're saying, I was on the board of a hunting organization. Being a nonprofit, they're supposed to stay apolitical.
Right.
However, being a hunting organization, your public lands commissioner is kind of who you're going to always talk to. Well, during I think it was the 2016 election, she was running. Her name was Hillary Franz. She was pretty far left. Well, after the election, Donald Trump wins, and she's encouraging people to walk out. This is the lady I have to directly communicate with, because I have no problem communicating with people, reaching out, doing emails, phone calls, cold calling, things like that. They put me in charge of kind of outreach. So I have to communicate with this lady who I have absolutely nothing in common with politically. hunting and fishing on public lands, yes.
Mhm.
But ideologically, she's telling my kids to walk out of school and to protest the election that just happened, and I got to write this lady a thank you letter for her time. It was time to back out. And so I did that. And there was a little break in between, but then the 2020 ramped up. Somewhere around late 2018, 2019, as candidates are coming out and they're announcing, well, if you want my vote, you have to shake my hand. I got to look you in the eyes. We're going to have a conversation. I'm going to feel your personality a little bit. Are you lying to me? Do I feel like you're a snake? That kind of thing. Well, obviously, when Trump ran, now you have Trump Republican Party. You have the Patriot Party. You have all these different Republican parties, but there was 4 big front runners that actually had a shot. So I brought them into all the little our Kitsap County Republican Party, and I set them up a meet and greet.
Mhm.
We're going to talk. We're going to shake hands. Are you lying to me kind of thing when I'm asking you questions? So the one candidate, his name was Anton Sakharov. He was a Russian. He was born in Russia, escaped communism, came here, and was a big Trump supporter, wanted to run as governor. So and he asked me, would you set me up another one? That was a lot of fun. I said, oh, yeah, sure. Why not?
Mhm.
So I set him up another one. Then he asked for another one. Next thing you know, I'm setting up meetings in almost every county in the state of Washington for him. Then I'm running his conference calls. And then he asked me, would you like to be the campaign manager? So I took a month off work. I traveled almost every county in Washington, trying to meet people, trying to shake hands, talk, do the campaign thing. Well, we got smoked in the primary. It was my first run at it. We got 12,000 votes, which, for a no-name candidate and a first-time campaign manager, was a lot of fun. I met a lot of people. And so later on, as the 2020 starts ramping up, I wanted to run. So it was later on. So I wanted to get a good head start for the 2022 election for state rep, or not state rep, but congressional rep. So I was District 6 against Derek Kilmer in Washington State. Well, COVID kept shutting everything down. I fix wrecked cars. So I know he was talking about trucks on the road, and
Right.
sorry, folks, that's what I do for a living. I fix wrecked cars. So somebody else's misfortune is how I make my money. Well, no traffic, everything completely shut down. It was time to look at my wife and go, we either lose everything we've ever worked for or we pick another state.
Mhm.
So that's what we did. We sat down, we looked at the map. She said, nothing east of the Mississippi. All right, that's gone. I said, I got to have hunting, fishing, lakes, rivers, mountains, whatever. I got to have that stuff. So, all right, Texas, gone. Other things, gone.
Right.
Well, then I said, I have to have all 3 branches of the government red. They have to be a Republican. All right, so this one's gone, this one's gone, this one's gone. So we had like 3 left. Well, then it became, all right, where can I make a living? Up here I am, Arkansas. I made one phone call and I got a job. 3 months later, I think it was like 3 months, something like that. I'm down here 2,300 miles, uprooted everything I was comfortable with
Right.
because of what my state had become.
Yes.
And, Washington was a good place. I voted in the last election against Obama. That was the last election you could hit any kind of paper ballot, computer ballot. That was it. Everything went completely mail-in after that, and then we got completely wiped out everywhere.
Mm.
So I've seen it firsthand. I love Washington State, the beauty of it, the hunt and the fish. I miss chasing elk in the mountains. I'd put a backpack on. I'd go 3 days without seeing anybody.
Right.
I left everything I knew to fight against everything I left.
Mhm.
And I hear people say, well, you're from Washington. Trust me, folks, I'm not here for the humidity.
Right.
I'm here to fight. And one thing that really gets me is the complacency in Arkansas. We had a special election where 500 people in Saline County showed up. That's
Yes.
not right.
Yeah.
The primary is your battleground, not the general. The general's where you hold your nose and you go, all right, I'm going to vote for this person.
Right.
You pick your rock stars in the primary. And I don't see that happening. And then I see other little things. And that was one of them. As my wife's reading me, only 500 people showed up for that. I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. Do you realize that Sarah Huckabee is the first time it went Republican to Republican in the governorship? If you want Asa, you want to call him a Republican, that's fine. But complacency is going to kill you. And that's where I've kind of jumped in. I'm loud and obnoxious and I'm not afraid. There's not much you're going to do to hurt my feelings. I work in a body shop.
Right.
We're conservatives.
Yeah.
We're blue collar, down to earth, tax-paying citizens. We don't care about your feelings and how it's going to affect you. In fact, in the body shop, if we're not teasing each other, we're probably not friends.
Right.
So things coming at me, the arrows, people attacking me, social media. I've had people come, when I ran in Washington, it was a far worse state than here as far as the attacks. People giving up your home address and stuff like that. that doesn't bother me anymore.
Mhm.
Because if we all keep running, I might as well go back to Washington.
Right. Coming from Washington and what you saw there, and now being here for the last couple years in Arkansas, what do you see as the primary concern? You talked about being complacent, and I think that people are complacent in Arkansas, and they don't understand that if they don't get involved, we can become a state very easily, such as Washington.
Yep. And from what I saw yesterday in some of these Republicans that were in this committee meeting,
Mm-hmm.
there was one that if he is not primaried, I'm going to be furious. The way he treated people, he was laughing in their face, twirling in his chair. And I'm your boss, dude.
Mm-hmm.
You work for me, and to treat me like that. And the bill that people were speaking on, it wasn't the one I was there for, but the way he was treating them, I said, this guy needs a primary. It's unreal. And from what I understand, he was a Democrat at once, swapped his party, and that's where he's at now. But just to see it, and like your previous guest was saying, that happens.
Yeah.
People are walking in and out. They're on their phones. They're not paying attention. And then, like you say, oh yeah, he just voted. But I was in the committee. So the one thing that bothers me is I'm trying to hold my representative accountable for everything. I am his worst nightmare, but his best friend.
Mm-hmm.
I will publicly pat you on the back when you did a good job, and I am going to fillet you when I think you did something wrong.
Mm-hmm.
That's the way it should be. But it really gets to me. It's uncomfortable. It's inconvenient. It's intimidating. But they're going to get away with everything they can get away with if you don't just put your foot down.
Right.
And so that's kind of where I'm at.
And it's hard to primary someone that, people see as kind of like, I call it the good old boys club, right? The people that you know, but are you paying attention to what they're doing?
Yeah. And in the committee, you have no way of knowing how they voted. So I can ask my rep, how are you going to vote on this in committee? And he's going to be like, oh, I'm going to vote against that or for that, whatever I want to hear. But if I am not there, who knows?
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, bud, it failed in committee. I don't know what to tell you. So, but if you're not involved, any one of these people can do it. The bill's going to start in committee.
Right.
And then it's going to go where it goes from there. But if you're not there paying attention, he had a great idea. Instead of jury duty, come down. Witness what's going on, because your eyes, it will blow your mind how little they really do. And that's what I told them. My speech is on my little Facebook page, but I told them it's a shame you have to do what you get paid to do. And nobody cares. Work harder. I'm sorry, but because you have to drive across the state to get together so you can put it on the record, that's a bummer deal, man. I don't know what to tell you. Do your job.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But that's what I'm finding out is they want to do as little as possible, and they just want to pass bills. I work all day long, 10 hours a day minimum usually.
Right.
But I'm laying in bed reading bills.
Right.
I'm sitting on my couch reading bills at night, or when the news is on in the background. And like you're saying, you have to compare them. So when you're reading it, you see all these lines through the bill. That's what they're getting rid of. And then you see everything on it. So you have to read it 3 times as it is. All right, they're getting rid of this, compare it to what they're adding. It's
Right.
not fun.
Right.
But if you let them get away with it, they're going to keep taking more and more and more.
Right.
But
It's so important for people to be involved in the process. Why do we get involved? I've been asked that so many times. Why are you so involved? And my answer is always the same. I am fighting for the future generation, for my kids and my grandkids. If I'm not fighting, who's going to? I talk to people all the time that they don't understand the process. They're intimidated by coming to the Capitol. They don't understand, when you go on ArcLeg and read the bills, and they don't understand how that system works. And so just trying to educate people. But it is so important. I was speaking to a friend yesterday who's really started getting involved this year as well. And I was asking her about stepping up to the plate to do something. And her response was, I'm learning. And I said, there's no greater way to learn than to do.
what I tell when I have a helper or somebody that's under me, and I hand them a tool and I say, go do that. Well, I've never done that before. Neither did I till the first time.
Right.
How are you ever going to learn? How are you ever going to get involved? Is there the perfect time to have a child? You just kind of, sometimes it happens and you roll with it and you love them and you do the best you can. Get involved. I mean, there's no, all right, I'm going to do it when this bill comes out. I will go down there for this one. There's no right time. There's no comfortable time. Your first time speaking, you're going to be sweaty. Your hands are going to be clammy. You're going to be sitting in front of these people that want to intimidate you. They want to shut you up.
Right.
And here's what I'll say. Get a hold of me. I'll go there and be your voice. If it's something I'm 100% aligned with and you're scared, you're going to lose your job. You don't want to tag me, send me a message. I will go there because I don't care anymore. My job, all right, I can go anywhere and fix a car. People have cars everywhere.
Right.
It's not like I'm going to go to a law firm that's a left-leaning law firm. I'm a body guy. I'm a blue-collar guy. We don't care about that stuff. Can you do the job or not?
Right.
So to me, it's not as intimidating as, well, you're going to get fired. Somebody else has a crappy car that needs to be fixed. I'll fix that one. I don't care. I'm not going to sacrifice my comfort for my child's future, my grandchild's future. When I die and I'm looking the Lord in the eye and he says, what did you do? I'm not going to tell him nothing.
Right.
I did everything I could and I feel like I didn't do enough. So when that time comes, I have to have a clear conscience.
Mm-hmm.
I have to look at my kids and my grandkids and say, I did everything I could.
Right.
I fought. I took a lot of heat for you guys. Enjoy it.
Yeah.
Never take this for granted.
Right.
Because Reagan, it's no more than one generation away.
Yes.
And look what's happening in our schools right now. And like I tell my mom all the time, she probably hates hearing it. The last generation didn't want to talk about God or religion. They didn't want to talk about money. They didn't want to talk about politics. Where are we right now? Got out of school. Our politics are going crazy. And no, they don't even know how to deal with money. They think, oh, I'll just take a loan out. Government's going to pay it back. Those three things right there are going to crash this country if we don't turn it around. Let's talk about God. Let's talk about money and let's talk about politics.
Right.
Because if we don't, somebody else will, and it might not be what you agree with.
Right. That was, you say that. And just growing up in my household, that was, you just didn't talk about it. My parents made it very clear you don't talk about religion and you don't talk about politics. And that I probably run it in the ground in my house because it's so important.
We can't even have these debates.
Right.
And that's why it's like, all right, so you shut it down years ago because you didn't want to teach your kids about it, that it's okay to talk about this. Let's have a disagreement.
And it becomes unimportant, right? And then we start really seeing the destruction of our country, which always starts locally. Always starts locally. That's why it's so important to get involved in your local politics, because it really is local. Your school boards, your mayor, your sheriff. I say those are so important.
Who's going to control you at the most local level?
Right.
Yeah, the government can come do what they need to do, but your local police department's right there. Or you're just, whether it's city ordinances.
Right.
What your kids are going to have in their libraries, what the teacher's going to be able to teach them. That's all very local. And people forget that. Like I myself am guilty. I'm addicted to national news.
Right.
I can't get enough. I've been a political junkie for over 10 years where it's my life. Some of my, like, Trump took them from me. Sebastian Gorka and Dan Bongino, I caught them for years. Like, I only missed the first month of Sebastian Gorka's radio show, and that was my life,
Right.
And so not having those, I feel like I'm missing part of my family. But it's just, if you're not doing it and talking about it and preaching about it, somebody's going to come in and they're going to take it and it won't be what you want.
Right, right. And you say preaching about it, even in your local churches, it's the pastors are really timid on preaching in the political arena, right? They're really abortion. Let's take that issue, for instance. On the abortion issue, it is a moral issue, but it has been made to be political. And we have so many pastors that won't even talk about abortion. I laugh because, we have the March for Life every year. And being that I'm, I have an adoption agency, I'm very involved in pro-life movement and have been for many, many years. I go that, well, the churches show up for the March for Life, but that's where most churches end. They have their little check box. We did this for the year, but then they won't stand at the pulpit and preach against abortion because we might offend someone.
Isn't a society's strength based on how well they treat the most vulnerable?
Right.
I'm sorry that my body, my choice. That's great if you're talking about a vaccine for you or a shot or something to that effect, but it's two human beings in my eyes.
Right.
Unless the mother is going to die because of something going on, absolutely not.
Even in that,
and that I don't even think is really, it's so rare.
It's extremely rare, but it's used as one of the main arguments, right? Where a baby can be delivered, and if the mom's life is in, at risk, the baby can be delivered by C-section, which is actually more safe than an abortion.
Yeah,
and you save 2 lives.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah, 100%. No, I don't. I had my first daughter very young.
Mm-hmm.
I was 17 when I found out.
Mm-hmm.
I went and got a job.
Yeah.
That's what I did. And
because that life was valuable, right?
It's my daughter,
Yeah.
And so there is in no way that I am in support of any kind of abortion, but it's adoption. There's so many people out there that would rather have the baby.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're missing so much.
Yeah.
You are. And now that my kids are older, I only have one 17-year-old home now. I have grandkids, and that's the trophy that you get for having kids is the grandkids,
Mm-hmm.
And it's now that I'm not worried so much about money and getting by and everything like that. I've got a decent house, a good job, things like that. I get to just spoil the crap out of them and enjoy all the hard work I've put into raising my 3 daughters to spoil them the absolute crap out of my 3 grandkids.
Right.
And it is the best part of my life. I love that part. And it's just, you don't know what you're missing. I can't imagine somebody aborting a baby or giving one up for adoption. I couldn't.
Well, moms that place their babies for adoption, they do it for many reasons. And, they're heroes to me because they're stepping outside of what they truly want, and they're doing what they truly believe is best for the child and for themselves because of their circumstances, right? Abortion ends the life, but adoption gives hope to the future, especially with open adoptions as they are. And so not every woman is in a place where she has support, and when I say support, I'm talking about family support, those around her, and because there's some that's financial, but it's so much more than the financial piece of it. A lot of times it's
if you're alone, I can imagine how scary it's going to be.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And it is. And
yeah.
On top of everything, they sure haven't made daycare affordable.
No.
And the one thing I do like about Arkansas is I've never worked I think I've had 3 body shops here, but bring your kids to work. Don't stay home. Just bring them. And I used to go to work with my mom when I was a kid, and I probably distracted her all day and screwed up all the charts in the doctor's office. But that makes it so much. What I was trying to say is it makes it easier for you to be able to go through that. And it's, all right, I can just bring my kid to work. If I need to, it'll be okay. And I think there's support in that. It's peace of mind, I think.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And in Arkansas, they do that way more than in Washington. In Washington, I just feel like they're like, okay, get out of here. We'll just get the next person that can just actually focus.
Right.
But down here, there's way more compassion for things like that.
There is a lot of compassion. You're right about that. So experiencing the things that you have coming from Washington and seeing the local politics here in Arkansas, do you see yourself continuing the fight going forward?
Oh, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
I would say that it's just the beginning. Like I started the page that I started in defiance of my representative not representing me, as far as just asking questions and him basically just kind of giving me the stiff arm going, sorry, son, that's not my fault or not my problem.
Right.
And that upset me a lot. That's not what we're here to do, buddy. You work for me. And I mean, I'm not asking you to like go out there and do anything that's illegal or anything. I'm asking you to fight, put a bill for it. He tells me, well, 20 of them already died in committee. So, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So 21, 22, 23, until we get somewhere, at least fight,
Right.
show a backbone. And that's what yesterday taught me. There wasn't one that I saw had a backbone except one senator speaking. And they all kind of turned on him. And I'm like, what he's saying makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm.
Transparency. Who would have thought?
Right.
Transparency. That's all he's advocating for is for the transparency for the FOIA.
Right.
And then gerrymandering is what he was talking about. Let's open it all up. Let everybody see it for the gerrymandering. Let's make it fair. That's all I want. And he's getting ridiculed by his colleagues.
And FOIA is how we hold our government accountable.
And so that is the bill I went to speak on, was the FOIA.
Okay.
The 376, I believe it is.
Right.
So that's the one I went to speak on, was the FOIA requests. And as I told him, there was only one reason you would put a bill like this forward. So the bosses don't know what the elected employees are doing.
Right.
That's the only reason. And if you were going to come up with a bill that is going to affect my life, make laws that I have to abide by, how dare you try to do it in secret?
Right.
I almost want to read your mind. If it is going to affect my life, I want everything. I want to know who you talked to, what you talked about, where's your money coming from? You getting a backroom deal? I want everything.
Right.
Because I have to live by what you just signed or voted on.
Right.
So to hide any of that is just unacceptable.
Right. And we don't need backroom deals being made. We do need the transparency in our government.
And that is the only way we're going to get trust back in the government, is through the transparency.
Right.
So what your other guest was saying, I am all for that. What his, I don't know, it was an app or what the software he's coming up with.
Right.
That sounds fantastic.
Right. Right.
Every one of your elected officials, when they are on the clock doing the people's business, it should be 100% transparent. There should be no shadows, no dark spots. Here it is, folks. And if I don't agree with you, that's fine, but explain it to me.
Right.
Let's have this discussion, because there might be somewhere in the gray. All right, I get it, where I'll agree with you and I can kind of see why you did it. But if I don't ever get to see that, and you're just doing it in the back, and like I say, in committee, there's no way to find out how they voted unless you're there. So what he's talking about, I think is fantastic. Completely opens everything up. You could sit on your couch, okay, because it's not easy to go down there.
Right. Right.
So I am all for that, the transparency on it.
Wonderful. Well, I just want to thank you for coming and sharing your experience with us today, and give us an encouragement, our listeners, the encouragement of getting involved. What would you say to them?
What I would say is, if you're not going to speak on what you believe in, somebody's going to speak on what they believe in. And that may be taking your freedoms and your liberties. It may raise your taxes. It might change your Medicare. Being silent is not an option. This government is for the people. And if you're not going to participate in it, then you have no room to complain about it. You have to be active, because if you're not, they're going to take advantage of you. Don't be scared. That's what they want. And what you want is to make them scared. And the only way they're going to be scared is if you say something. That's it.
I like what you said. I mean, someone's going to let their voice be heard. Is it going to be yours, or is it going to be something that is absolutely against what is valuable to you and your family? So thank you so much, Aaron, for coming and sharing with us today. Well, that is going to be it for this week at Arkansas First Reports. I hope that you've been encouraged today in seeing the importance of getting involved in your local government and the legislative process here in the state of Arkansas. It's so important for your family and for your children's future that you do so. I like what Aaron had to say. It's either going to be your voice or someone else's voice. It might as well be yours. Thank you for joining us. Until next time, Stay Arkansas strong.